bath time.
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies, it's totally science and just a fact or something, so look it up. Today we are jumping right back into r/Tales of Neckbeards, and we are continuing the Wheezybeard saga by user Bright Rice. We've got 3 new parts. I don't know if that is necessarily the end, because as usual, I haven't really vetted these stories, so hopefully it doesn't get too heavy. We can get a couple of laughs out of it, but either way, I'm sure we're going to have a good time. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. Wheezybeard Part 2.
Dinner time.
Hello again, Reddit friends. I'm back for Part 2. Thank you to all the upvoters and commenters. I'll use more paragraphs from now on. Thank you, OP. Also, in my last story, I forgot to add trigger warnings, so I'm sorry. If you get triggered by anything eating disorder related or sexual abuse, I'm not sure my stories are for you. Or any Neckbeard stories, honestly. To get into the story, we need to add a new character. Our Neckbeard's grandma. Absolutely lovely lady. I'll call her GG. Other cast members in this story are me, your vertically challenged OP, and our neckbeard Wheezybeard, or WB. After my sister Angel left, I decided to start cleaning my room, vacuuming and mopping the floor, dusting everything, and arranging my belongings. I received a text from Wheezybeard saying,
Grandma wants to have you in the main house for dinner. Be there by 6.
I was so relieved that I wouldn't have to use that kitchen, because it would take me so long to get it to any standard of clean. As a casual at my work, I decided to NA for a few days so that I could clean at least some of the kitchen and the bathroom. After all, there was no way that I could use those amenities in the state that they were in. I changed out of my sweaty clothes into a nice dress to meet my new landlord. A short walk over to the house, I popped my head in through the back door and heard a warm, come in. Welcome, we have a spot already for you." And I walked into a feast. She must have spent hours putting all this together. Everything was so beautiful. Candles, music, everything.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
How was Wheezybeard possibly related to her? Grandma was the exact opposite of Wheezybeard. So well dressed, curled hair, spotless house that smelled like fresh linen. I asked her later what she used, and she gave me a fresh linen spray for my new house. Now, Wheezybeard was already sat down at the table and had tucked in, slurping Coke from the bottle and noisily shoveling down food like he hadn't eaten in a month. He didn't even bother eating with his mouth closed. Grandma ignored the shameless beardo and asked how I liked the new house. I came to learn that she was unable to walk out to that house because she couldn't get up the steps in her old age. Wheezybeard stared intensely at me, the look saying,
Don't you dare mention that the house is dirty.
I think dirty's putting it lightly. Don't mention that the house is a fucking natural disaster. I just simply said, it's a perfect location and price. Just what I was hoping for. That wasn't a lie. And satisfied, Wheezybeard went back to eating like a pig at a trough. Grandma smiled. I'm so glad we can have some company. It's just been me and Wheezybeard. Now, come over and tuck in. I'll bring out dessert soon. I thanked her as she went back into the kitchen, and I started putting food on my plate. Wheezybeard took one look at my plate, and this piece of human garbage says to me,
Is that it? No wonder you're so skinny.
And then even louder he yells,
Grandma, this girl doesn't like your cooking.
Grandma pokes her head out and tells him to be quiet, that I'm just shy, and that if I don't like her food, she'll happily whip up something else. She is a gem. After eating food to the point of bursting, she sends us off with some leftovers in Tupperware. Thinking back, I miss her so much. Yeah, it's a mystery how these two are related. Jesus. On the walk back to the house, Wheezybeard stops me.
You aren't bulimic, are you?
Does this man never think before he speaks? I tell him no, that I'm very active and just don't snack often. He tells me that
I need to stop being so scared to eat, and thicker girls are much more attractive to him.
He then says,
You would look so good with some extra weight on you.
Ugh. I'm not here for you, Lardo. I very gently tell him that I don't want to change my look, not for anyone but myself. After being in such a lovely place, the smell of ours hit me like a freight train, and honestly made me feel sick. If I was going to live here, I was certainly fixing it up, and this lardass was gonna help. I will tell you that it was like pulling teeth, but I would threaten to take photos and show them to Grandma if he refused to help out. After a few days and many tantrums on Wheezybeard's part, yes, he actually cried at times. He's a bitch. Saying that
I was so mean, and that his breathing problems and the chemicals make it so hard to breathe.
I told him that his smoking wouldn't help the situation, so after many comments of,
Why did you move in? Why can't you just do the cleaning if it bothers you so much?
we finally had the house in an okay state. Do you think it stayed that way? No, not with our neckbeard. But it never did get as bad as it was in the beginning. Alright, I hope this story was long enough. I definitely enjoyed jotting down my time there, especially remembering Grandma. Everyone needs a grandma, and I was so lucky to have known her. Thank you for everyone to reading this, and I wish you a happy farewell for now, Redditors. I think at a certain point I would have probably approached the grandma and just been like, hey, can I move in here with you? I can assist you with things. Of course, then you'd still have to be somewhat close to Wheezybeard, which I guess that's not good. You don't want to be anywhere within proximity of a neckbeard. But at least the time you did spend there could have been at least slightly more bearable. I think it was said at least a couple times in the story, but yeah, it is amazing that these two are related. I wonder if Grandma had raised Wheezybeard the whole time, or if, the biological mother had some sort of massive failing on her part that helped turn this beard into such a beard. It seems astonishing to me that somebody who is so put together would let her grandchild develop into this. So I suspect that's the case. Biological parents just dropping the ball. Maybe that's why they're not around. There's a lot we could speculate on, I suppose. But sometimes beards is just beards, They roll in filth because they like it. At least that's what I tell myself. And it's easier than theorizing an entire life for this pig. Anyways, we'll continue on into the third part right now. Wheezybeard Part 3. Bath time. Oh, God.
I wash myself with a rag on a stick.
Hello again, fellow Redditors. I'm back again for more stories. Again, there will be triggering topics brought up, so please tread lightly, friends. Living with Wheezybeard was a scary time. This man was an absolute creep who would try filming me while I was in the bathroom, but would leave his very obvious camera and even his phone at one point, trying to get a peek at his roommate,
Milady.
After yelling at him and breaking his camera accidentally, he stopped and would randomly try to see if I'd forgotten to lock the door. Fat chance, buddy. At one point, he stole the master key from his grandma's, had a secret copy made, and unlocked the door to see me fully dressed, about to brush my teeth. Jesus Christ. I'd had enough. I told Grandma about him trying to be a creep, and she told me that she'd speak to him. That night, he came home and promised to
never disturb me while I tried to shower.
Oh, how nice of you. What a fucking prince. I don't know what she said to him, but he blubbered the rest of the night about how
he just wants a girlfriend so badly,
and how
no girls will send nudes, even if he sends them first.
I laugh when I think about it. You think sending a pic of him trying to hold up all his belly fat to show girls his little button mushroom is going to get them all hot and bothered? The social failings here, I just don't even know where to start. God.
That's not how any of this works.
About a week later, I'd gone out with friends, and I'd had too much to drink, so they drove me home. I'm a giggly drunk, so when I got home, I laughed about how hard it was to open the door. I walk in and giggle as he's laying there watching his show. Wheezybeard.
What's so funny?
I lost it and decided to tell him a stupid joke that I'd heard. He laughed, but nowhere near as hard as I was laughing. I think he could tell I was drunk. He offered to take his
lady to her quarters.
but no way. I was drunk, and I had to finish my McDonald's in the bathtub. The life? I was having a great time on my phone, eating my sundae and blowing bubbles, and I hear
You're gonna drown! I'll save you!
I freaked. I'd forgotten to put my towel in with my laundry. No towel but this one in here, and no way in hell I am using that. I'm drunk, trying to get dressed while also being drenched, and I'm yelling, "I'm fine," while he's yelling,
It's too dangerous! You'll slip and crack your head open!
and he's trying all the keys on his keychain, trying to get in. The door swings open, and I'm there, covered, but only just in the tight dress that I had just worn out. In all that, I missed a call from Grandma. I called her right back. She was worried because she had heard yelling. I explained that I had a few too many drinks and was having a bath when Wheezybeard came in again because
he thought I needed saving.
Grandma went quiet and told me to come over to the house and that she'd look after me until the morning, and then she'd speak to Wheezybeard again. Wheezybeard at this point was crying again.
I was trying to save her.
He wailed into the phone.
I could hear her drowning,
he said. I kept yelling out to you I was fine, but you came in anyways, I said. I snatched my phone, hung up, and he told me
I was a bitch, and he was trying to stop me from hurting myself.
And that
no woman appreciates a gentleman.
Chivalry at its finest. I went to Grandma's house sobbing. Grandma was in the lounge room setting up the bedding in the lounge. She sat with me for ages, listening to me and comforting me. She told me that Wheezybeard deep down was a good boy. Really deep down. He had a lot of manners to learn, but he never had a male role model to teach him how to be a man. That his mother didn't care about him and enabled his behavior. She will appear in future stories. I did feel sort of bad for him, as she explained that he didn't know how to speak to girls and was bullied a lot growing up. It's hard to hate the guy at this point. I could relate with things like bullying, no good role models, and not being taught certain things, so with my permission, she called him over, and he did apologize again, and was made to give her the key because he had broken his promise and my trust. I stayed at Grandma's that night, and the next day I came home to flowers on my bed. There were nice moments, but a lot of them were overshadowed by a lot of neckbeardy things. And we will hate him again, but it made me see him from another side. Finishing on that note, I want to thank y'all for reading my stories. Makes me so happy that one was read on YouTube. Thank you, ReddX. Hey, got you, fam. Also, for personally letting me know that my posts were removed. I love how dedicated you are to your fans. That's so kind of you, OP. I mean, yeah, I'm dedicated to my fans. My fans seem dedicated to me. It's a two-way street, you know what I mean? This channel would be nothing without them, and without me, I guess they'd have nothing to watch. So we're all in this together, you know, as far as I'm concerned. We are all ReddX, not to get too gushy. P.S. OP had a very turbulent childhood, so going back to my parents would have been much, much worse. It's dark, and honestly, it would be very triggering for so many people. My parents were drug addicts, and nothing was more important to them. They didn't want me, and would constantly tell me so. I escaped at 15 after so much abuse. I don't want a pity party, but again, if people want to hear my background story, I'll tell it. I don't know what platform to put it on either. I'm in a much better, safer place now, ready to share my stories with you guys. Hope y'all have a fantastic night. I think everybody out there has at least some sort of trauma in their past. The real question is how you get over it, how you deal with what has happened to you. Now, my parents weren't as bad as OPs or Wheezybeards. You know, those are like the completely neglectful types. My parents provided pretty well. The worst I could say happened to me is I got smacked around a little bit, but I don't begrudge my parents for that, honestly. It helped shape me into the person that I am. So while I'd prefer that it didn't have to come to that, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all part of the formative experience, you know? And obviously some people deal with it better than others. You know, we've got Wheezybeard, who just basically crumbled to the ground and decided to live in a filth pile and say, woe is me, I can't find a girlfriend, woe is me. instead of, putting yourself out there, learning the social skills to find yourself a girlfriend, and also how to be a functional human being. And then you've got OP, on the other hand, who obviously had a tough home life as well, but decided to push back against it and forge her own path, And one is obviously more admirable than the other one. They're both coping mechanisms in some form or fashion, but I can definitely tell you which one that I hope you would pick for yourself if you are in a similar situation. Obviously, Wheezybeard was trying to put himself out there in some type of way, leaving flowers on the bed and shit, but this ain't a movie, bro. You need some real life experience. Nobody gives a shit about flowers if you can't forge a mental connection between another person and yourself, Candy, flowers, jewelry, that's all real nice as a cherry on top, but without the mental and physical connection, scoops of ice cream. What do you got? You got a bowl of fucking whipped cream with a cherry in it. Nobody's gonna dig on that. But anyways, before I wax too poetic, I suppose we shall get into the last part for now, which I'm sure will not be the last part overall, because remember, we got 8 months of this. So I'm hoping this will turn into a massive saga, but let's see what we got for the last part right now. Wheezybeard Part 4. Grandma gets sick. Crap. It's gonna end on a somber note, isn't it? Hello again, friends. Thank you again for joining me. I love how much appreciation and love you've shown for me. This part of the saga was very sad, but it does add to the story. For all those first joining us, characters are OP, very short, pretty average looking, about 5 subways long. $5 foot long, that's $25. Wheezybeard, or WB, our beardo that is creepy, chain-smoking anime waifu prick that believes women were put on this earth
to serve him.
God's gift. If he's God's gift, I'm gonna have to stop believing in God. Grandma, Wheezybeard's beautiful, lovely, generous grandmother.
Every grandma should have their own song.
I'd been with Wheezybeard for a while at this point, and unfortunately was watching Grandma's health deteriorate by the day. All alone in that house, I would often pop by, and this made her day. She would make up all kinds of things for us to have. I would bring by some groceries, and she would always tell me that she would have some extra in some Tupperware for me later. Aw, grandmas. On my birthday, she surprised me with a beautiful butterfly necklace, my favorite animal, and made a beautiful dinner with a butterfly cake. Dang, a theme and everything. Now, one morning, I popped by and didn't see her in the kitchen. I called out for her, and I could hear a faint crying. I ran around searching for her to find her crumpled on her bedroom floor. She'd fallen in the night and had no way to call for help. Cold and weak, I immediately dialed for the hospital. Holding her, I pleaded for them to come quickly. I didn't know her details, but I did know the address. An ambulance soon arrived, and I went with her. I called Wheezybeard as soon as we got to the hospital to tell him about Grandma. He asked
if she was alive.
I said yes, but I didn't know how she went with the fall. The douchebag asked me
why I would call him if she just fell over.
I was enraged. Don't you know that when old people fall, it can be potentially life-threatening? I could barely hold back my tears. I'd known this woman for such a short time, but it was like she was like my own grandmother.
Call me if she's dying. Otherwise, I'll pick her up afterwards,
he said. What a scumbag. He wasn't even gonna visit her while she recovered. She was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I visited as much as I could, brought her flowers and chocolates. She'd broken her hip and had some internal bleeding, but surprisingly did well after the surgery, and after her 3-week stay, she came home. She was on bed rest, and I put up a schedule for myself and Wheezybeard to give her meds, assist her to the bathroom, and bring her food. As I came home from my second day at work, I found her starving. She hadn't had her pain medication, and she had wet herself. She was so embarrassed that I had to clean up after her, but was so grateful that I was there. After ensuring that she was well fed and had her medication and was asleep, I stormed home. Now, I was angry. And I wasn't thinking right when I went through the door and found Wheezybeard smoking and watching anime. I grabbed him by the shoulder and slapped him as hard as I could. Should have made a fist. Nothing but what he deserves. I've never struck anyone before, but I could not believe someone could be so heartless. You could see an outline of where my hand had been.
What the fuck?
He yelled as he slapped me back. I was so angry that I didn't even feel it. Not in that moment. How dare you leave Grandma alone all day without tending to her? You agreed on helping, and I go over there to find out you haven't been over there at all. He stepped back and said,
I was busy and time got away from me.
I motioned around. Busy doing what? I worked all day and still was the one that went over there to help. What have you been doing? The house was filthy, so I knew he hadn't done any housework.
I was busy looking through retirement villages she could stay in and funeral arrangements.
This prick just wanted to pack her up for someone else to deal with until she died. I'm not a living relative, so I have no say in what his family chooses to do with Grandma, but I knew she wanted to stay in her house. She hated nursing homes and knew that you go senile from not doing things for yourself. This isn't the end of the discussion, but in the next story, I will bring in Wheezybeard's mother. Oh, that should be a treat. I'll leave you here for now, but I will start on another part as soon as I can. Thank you to everyone who's been reading. You have all been amazing. Bye for now. Bro, they picked me up, they dropped me right back down. They're like, see Wheezybeard, isn't he a somewhat sympathetic character? No, he's a total piece of shit, and here's why. Leaving your grandma to starve and piss on herself without her pain meds? Like, somebody take this man out back and fucking shoot him in the head. I'm completely serious. How dare you? He would have gotten worse than a slap from me. I would have made sure that he ended up in the hospital as well. And guess what? I wouldn't have gone to pick him up. I would have had him sectioned. But like, I don't know. I think he has some mental problems if you have a look at his house. It's really dirty. Maybe we should just, get him some mental help. And then guess what? Wheezybeard ain't coming home. As far as I'm concerned, nothing is too much for this guy. This is so deplorable. It's your flesh and blood. It's your fucking grandma. Like, how could you not be there? Ugh. He wasn't even the one to find her. He's too busy fucking watching hentai and playing with his little button mushroom dick and smoking cigarettes to even find his grandma laying on the floor. Like, oh God, what a fucking horrible person. The house, I could maybe deal with it. You know what I mean? I could be like, okay, you do have some problems you need to get over, but we can work through it, friend. But as soon as you treat your own flesh and blood like this, like, you're less than human, honestly. I do try to show a lot of sympathy for people that get featured in the stories, the neckbeards, the nice guys, the weeaboos. I try to see it from their side, you know what I mean? But this is a fucking bridge too far. I'm so upset, like personally upset. I just hate this. We're gonna have another Wheezybeard video because I can't just let it drop now. And I hope Bright Rise will get it out sooner than later because I'm chomping at the bit to meet the woman that spawned this fucking ham beast. This unfeeling whale of a human. God, I hate him. Ugh. We have seen some spectacles on this channel, and while this isn't the absolute worst story that I've ever read, it definitely hits home with me, and I personally just want to go punch this fucking dude in the head. At least try to knock some sense into him or something. Jesus. Okay, deep breath. Woosah. The story's over now. Let's get back to reality. Let's get grounded again. Are we feeling relaxed? Excellent. Are you feeling relaxed enough to hit the like button? Or maybe comment or subscribe? You could even share the video. I said in the last video you should warn your grandma about neckbeards. Let everybody know that these fuckers are out there. And while some of them are just, derpy and cringy, some of them are malicious, either actively or through neglect. These are definitely the sorts of people that you need to watch out for. Ugh. So push all the buttons and check out the link swarm in the description. We got PayPal, we got Patreon if you want to toss some money my way. If you want to reach out and hang out a little bit, we got Twitter, Discord, Facebook, and my other channel. And as per usual, I would be remiss not to thank my gorgeous, generous, beautiful patrons Lady Nick, Crimson Albedo, Dot Nathan, Robert Waits, Just Austin, Pope Squid, Rebecca H, and Cider Drinker. Thank you guys so much for helping me to live the dream, keeping my motivation high. If you can donate, obviously that is much appreciated, but if you can't right now, don't worry about it. No pressure. I just appreciate you hanging out with me today, and I hope that you will come and hang out with me again tomorrow. In order to do so, you will need to keep yourself safe out there, so wash your hands as much as possible. And also, don't forget to take the time out today to do something that you personally enjoy, because you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I'll see you in the next one, friends. And until then, bye-bye.